back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys! So I'm here today to do my November TBR. November is an exciting month because I am going to be taking part in Non-Fiction November, which is being hosted by Olive and Gemma. I'll link their channels down below. Go and watch them both and go and subscribe, and definitely check out what Non-Fiction November is if you haven't heard of it, because it's something that I'm super excited about. So basically the idea of Non-Fiction November is to read more non-fiction than you normally would. I have plenty of non-fiction books on my shelf that I have wanted to get to for a while, and I kind of put non-fiction to the side sometimes in favour of the fiction that I get, just because I get sent so much more fiction to review and I buy so much more fiction. But I do tend to really enjoy the non-fiction I read, and so I wanted to dedicate the whole month of November to predominantly reading non-fiction. I have a few fiction books that I'm going to throw in there, but mostly I'm going to just dive into all my non-fiction books and hopefully find some real gems to share with you guys as well. So there are 4 categories in Non-Fiction November. They are just words that you can kind of choose to participate in or not. I think most of the books that I have will fall into one or other of those categories, so I'm not going to specifically put any of them in categories, but I will tell you a little bit about each of them, and you can let me know if you've heard of them, let me know if you've got any other suggestions that sound similar or things that you think I would like, and let me know what you're planning to read for the month of November too. So let's get started. First up, I'm going to show you a few fiction books that I plan to get to, and then we'll go through all of the non-fiction as quick as we can. The first book that I am planning to start today, in fact, is NINEFOX GAMBIT, which is by Yoon Lee. I am super excited about starting this because I believe it has a lot to do with different genders and sexuality, possibly. I'm very intrigued and I definitely want to read it. It's a science fiction. I'm doing a buddy read with loads of other people who I'll link below, and I'm super excited. So that's all you need to know about that. The next one on my list is one I'm carrying over from the month of October, and that is 2312 by Stanley Robinson. I am about a third of the way into this and I'm really liking what I've read, but I just kind of went on a bit of a break from this and I haven't got back into it. I'm hoping I will this month and I can finish it up, because I would like to say that I've read some Stanley Robinson and this was going really well for me, so I'm not really sure what made me put it down, but I do intend to go back into it and pick it up again. It's kind of a mystery set in space at the moment, so it's pretty cool. The next one I want to read is After Atlas by NEWMAN, because I believe that this comes out in the month of November, and I would like to have this read earlier than that if possible. We'll see, but I definitely want to get it read this month. It is a science fiction again, but I believe this one deals a lot with mental health. Hopefully it'll be something really fresh and exciting. I've read the first few chapters and enjoyed it, so again I just need to get back into this and I'm sure that I'll like it overall. The next one is one that I'm halfway through, and that is TRAITO'S by LYNN FLEWELLING. This is the 3rd one in the Night Runner series and I'm really enjoying this series overall. I'm hoping to get back to this very soon and finish it up. And those are all the fiction books. I'm not planning any others, so if I pick up others that's fine, but I'm not planning any specifically. Let's get on to all the non-fiction I have planned for this month. I'm not going to read all of this, I'm just going to pick from it, but I would love to hear your suggestions about which ones to go for in the comments below. As you can see, I've got a pile this high on me and a few others on the bed, so I've got quite a lot to tell you about. First up, I have 3 books on audio, so I'm going to tell you quickly about them. The first of the ones I have on audiobook was recommended to me by Katie, whose channel is Katie Loves to Read. I'll link her below, and she said that she'd listened to this and really enjoyed it. So that is Hidden Figures, The American Dream and the Untold Story of the Black Women Mathematicians Who Helped Win the Space Race, and it's by MARGOT SHETTERLY, and I believe this tells the story of some African American women who were behind the scenes of the space race, so I'm very excited to hear their side of the story and find out what they were doing that was so revolutionary that it allowed us to get into space, which is quite an incredible feat when you think about it. Apparently it's amazing. I'm really looking forward to reading it, so I can't wait for that. The next one that I have is Stiff by Mary Roach. I've not read any Mary Roach yet, which is essentially a massive crime because everyone on BookTube seems to love her. I believe that she's got quite a few different stories out, and this one deals with corpses. That's all I kind of know, and that's all I want to know going into it, but I'm very excited to try it out, and hopefully I'll really like her style and read some of her other things too, we'll see. Beyond Belief, My Secret Life Inside Scientology and My Harrowing Escape, and it's by JENNA MISCAVIGE Hill. Apparently it's about Jenna, who was raised in the Scientology religion, which is a religion in America. It's kind of a smaller religion. She was a niece of the leader of the religion, David Miscavige, and she grew up at the centre of the controversial organisation until she inevitably escaped somehow, and she kind of tells the story of her trying to align what she believed with what she was being taught and all of that stuff. So I'm very, very interested in this. Scientology is one of those religions that I find absolutely fascinating. It's a very bizarre, different culture to what I know and live, and I find it fascinating. So I'm really, really excited to read this one, and I hope it will open my eyes a bit to this religion and tell me a bit more about her story. I really like sort of memoir retellings of people's lives, and I think this will be one that I'll really, really like. And the final one that I have coming in the post to me, it's not arrived yet, but I will be reading it. It is called How to Suppress Women's Writing by JOANNA RUSS, and this is the non-fiction pick for the Magical Space Pussycats. We are doing a non-fiction book in the month of November to fit in with non-fiction November ourselves, and myself, Chelsea and Elizabeth will all be reading this month, and hopefully it'll be fun. I say that very tentatively because I believe this is actually going to be very rage-inducing and very anger-inducing, and I think it's going to be quite fun to discuss. So episode 7 of Magical Space Pussycats, when that comes out early December, oh, it's going to be fun. Now moving on to all the physical non-fiction books that I own, because I own quite a few, I realise. Escape, and it's written by CAROLYN JESSOP, and it's about her life when at 18 years old she was forced to marry a 50-year-old who was part of a religious cult. She became one of 6 wives to him and bore him 8 children in 15 years. And when the cult started preaching about death and destruction, she knew that she and her children had to escape, hence the name of the book. It sounds fantastic. I am always moved by this sort of thing, as I just said, so I'm sure I'm going to love it, and I can't wait to get into it. The next one I have is an ARC copy that I was given by Faber. This is Future Sex by Emily Witt. I believe this is a story about Emily's life as she got to the age of 30 and realised she was single and she hadn't got the life that she imagined having with the husband and the kids and all of that stuff. So instead she started trying to explore sex in various different ways and looked into webcamming and much more. So it sounds quite raunchy, maybe. It sounds a little bit naughty, it sounds a bit fun, and I think it'll be an interesting read. So I'm looking forward to trying this one out, and we'll let you know what I think. The next one I have is a book that Mercedes got for me for my birthday. It's called Just Mercy, and it's by BRYAN Stevenson. I believe this follows a case that BRYAN Stevenson was part of. He was a lawyer in America, and he grew up in these sort of lower class areas, so he was very passionate about representing people who came from that sort of area. And one of the cases that he represented was the case of a young black man who was accused of killing a white woman, and he goes into detail on this case and whether or not he believes this person guilty and what happened and all of the stuff leading up to it. So I'm very interested to read it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Making a Murderer, so I guess it might be a little bit like that. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm really excited to try it out, and hopefully I'll really love it as much as everyone else I know who's read it and loved it. The next book I have is a history non-fiction, and this is 6 Wives by David Starkey, the Queens of Henry VIII. I was, and still probably am, fascinated with the wives of Henry VIII and the Tudor period. I think many people are. It was one of the few periods in history that I learned about at school, and I was absolutely intrigued by and fascinated by. I just found it really, really interesting, and I loved the way that each of the women in his life were completely different and completely original, and they brought something very different to England at that time. So I think they're all fascinating ladies, and I would love to read some more about them. I have actually read the first 2 in this, but that was years ago, and I can't really remember a huge amount of it. I might try and read the next few or reread some of it, I'm not sure, but I would like to give this a go and maybe read a bit of it. It's huge, so I won't read it all, but maybe a bit. The writing's also super tiny, so yeah, definitely not aiming to finish this, just aiming to read some of it. The next one I have is Out of Mao's Shadow, The Struggle for the Soul of a New China, and it's by Philip Pan. I believe this one is about modern China and looking at how modern China is slightly masking some of the slightly older practices and some of the hurts that the country has been through. I don't know a huge amount more than that, but I also don't know a huge amount about China generally, and I think this will be a good sort of start point to discover a bit more about it and the political landscape and things. So I'm quite excited to read this, I have to admit, and I definitely think it's going to be one that will open my eyes a bit to stuff and make me intrigued. The next one is a natural history book, and it's actually called Natural Histories, 25 Extraordinary Species That Have Changed Our World, and it's by Brett Westwood and Stephen Moss. This is a book literally about various different insects, creatures, things like that that have changed the world in some way. I believe it focuses on quite a lot of different peculiar things such as brambles, parrots, crocodiles, hornbills, oaks, beetles, cockroaches, fleas, monkeys, sharks, butterflies and squids and more. And there are illustrations within this that are black and white, and I think maybe some pictures and photographs, so quite excited to give this one a go. Plus the cover is delightful, as you can see. I've had this for a while and I'm quite excited to finally dip into it. Another historical one, which has been on my currently reading list for quite some time, and I am about halfway through, is The Romanovs, 1613 to 1918 by Simon Sebag Montefiore. And I definitely am enjoying this. It's one of those books that is a slow burner because it does cover a huge amount of years and it's biographical. I do find it very interesting, but it is a slow book, and even though it is a very readable slow book, it's slow. Continuing my theme of history, A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson is apparently a great place to introduce you to a short history of everything. I feel like there are certain bits of history that I know about, like the sort of stuff you get taught in school, certain eras like the Romans and the Greeks and the Vikings and the Tudors and the Second World War. I don't really know that much about most of the other time periods in between because I wasn't taught them at school and I haven't looked into them massively. So I'm quite excited to try this, which I think gives you little snapshots into lots of different areas, and then maybe go and do more research into the areas that really interest me afterwards. So that's my plan with this one. The next one I have is Furiously Happy, a funny book about horrible things by Jenny Lawson. I've heard that Jenny Lawson is a great writer to write about mental health, and she deals with some very interesting topics in quite a humorous and exciting way. A lot of people seem to really enjoy her writing style and have said that this book and her other books are very, very easy to get into, so I'm quite excited to try some books about mental health that might be positive. I'm not really sure how she's going to do that, but I am quite interested, and I have to say the cover of her book and all her other books are fantastic. I just think it's fantastically funny to look at, so I really get a smile on my face every time I see it, and I just think that's a great marketing strategy and also a great way to look at representing mental health in a positive way. The next one I have is called Besieged, and it's Life Under Fire on a Sarajevo Street, or Sarajevo Street, I'm not sure how you say that. It's by Barbara DeMick, who is the author of Nothing to Envy, which I read earlier this year and I absolutely loved it. That one was about North Korea. This one is about Bosnia and the war there, and various different people who came from various different walks of life and had different religions and different backgrounds, and all of them lived on this one street in Sarajevo until the war came along and everything kind of shattered in their world. So I'm really, really interested in this. I know that I love her writing style. I believe she wrote this after she wrote Nothing to Envy, so hopefully that means it's still really, really good. And yeah, I'm super excited to try this out and read more of her work because she is a fantastic, fantastic writer, and she really got across the emotions of these people in Nothing to Envy, so hopefully that happens with this book too. The next one is a super cute fun one that I think will just be a dip in and out kind of factual one. It's about dragons. I say factual loosely because we all know that dragons are magical. This is just a book all about dragons and the myths and the legends and the lore behind them. I've had this on my shelf for quite a while and I haven't read any of it yet, but I feel like this is the time. Non-fiction November is the time for these crazy little wacky kind of coffee table, quirky little books, and that's what this is. I believe this has some illustrations and stuff in it, like nice dragon illustrations, which is always a plus, and I think it just talks about various different cultures, various different mythologies. Quite looking forward to discovering it, and I'll report back. And the final one that I have is an illustrated one, and that is called Bad Girls Throughout History, 100 Remarkable Women Who Changed the World, and it's by SHEN. And I'm very excited to read this because I don't often see women represented in history books, and I think this will be a great one. It's illustrated, like I say, you get a picture of each of the women that it's talking about, and then you get a bit of information alongside about that woman. Maybe I'll find some people that I've never heard of in this, and I can go and do my own further research. That's kind of what I hope to get from it. So that is it. Those are all the books I'm planning to read. Obviously there are loads in this video. I don't think I'll get to them all, but I'm just gonna pick up what I feel like and see what takes my fancy and dip in and out of things, because that's kind of what you do with non-fiction. I think all the memoirs will probably be a guaranteed yes, I'll like it, because memoirs are definitely my thing when it comes to non-fiction, but some of the more factual ones and historical ones will be really interesting too, and they are about topics that I know that I will probably enjoy and find interesting. So do leave me all your recommendations below. If there's anything here that you've heard of or you haven't heard of and you want to pick up, let me know, or if there's anything that kind of jogged your memory or rings a bell and you have recommendations for me, then do leave them in the comments too. I'd love to know what you're planning to read for Non-Fiction November, if you're joining in or if you're just reading general fiction, what are you going to read? Let me know that too, link me your TBRs, and thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Bye!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.